Cenk Torun finally spoke after walking out free, and the way he told it was raw, weary, and edged with defiance. He said he was treated unfairly, and if you've been following this whirlwind from the first headline to the last angry tweet, you already know how fast everything spun out of control. Allegations appeared overnight, the words detention, interrogation, release clung to his name in every feed, the D-word got tossed into titles to juice clicks. And before the ink on those posts dried, he was already back home, holding Mahaseen Marabet's hand, staring at a storm neither of them invited. If you're new here, hit subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars, because what we're pulling apart today is not just gossip, but a collision between image, power, and the kind of love that refuses to shrink under the brightest glare. The question pulsing through every conversation is simple but slippery: what really happened to Cenk that night? One push notification turns into 1,000 assumptions, one vague phrase turns into a narrative, and suddenly the man whose face we know from screens is being dissected like a case study. By morning, social media was split into clashing camps, believers and doubters, protectors and provocateurs. Some insisted it was all a smear, a textbook perception game, others said there must be a spark if there's this much smoke. Through it all, Mahaseen stood beside him, calm but fierce, and you could see how synchronized they'd become as a couple, sharing looks that say, "We'll handle this together." Were the reports real, or manufactured? Why did Cenk respond with such pointed force? And why did his words land like a gauntlet tossed at certain corners of the press? Here's the line that made headlines from Istanbul to Rome. In essence, at a time when officers are hauling big names in for scrutiny, do people truly believe he'd be foolish enough to carry anything illegal? You can read it as pure defense, but there's a dare in there too, a refusal to let someone else's narrative become his identity. Then came the turn no one could ignore, the flight to Italy, a quiet re-entry into Rome, a post that gripped timelines, and statements the Italian media embraced while others fumed. Let's map the story's backbone so we can see where it bends and where it holds. The initial reports were vague to the point of fog. We saw little fragments. He gave a statement. He was taken in. He was released. Within minutes, those fragments multiplied, each retelling adding a shade of suggestion darker than the last. The most scandalous word, the one that can stain an actor's name faster than any role can shine it, showed up again and again. In the entertainment economy, reputation is a currency, and the wrong headline can devalue it overnight. Cenk, who has been building a careful presence abroad and anchoring projects that cross borders, knows these stakes. So does Mahaseen, whose poise and precision have become part of their shared brand, elegant, disciplined, and allergic to chaos. He didn't choose the standard line you've heard 1,000 times. Instead of muttering, "I trust the process," Cenk sounded like someone whose patience had been drained. He said the incident was blown up, the claims didn't match reality, and if there'd been even a sliver of legitimacy in them, he wouldn't have been back on the street before the day was out. He stressed time, hammered it, almost made it a character in the narrative. If there was any real basis, why would he be free so quickly, and how could he fly out the next day? Mahaseen echoed him, not in the same words, but with that choreography couples develop when crisis hits. She let him lead, then stepped forward to lock the formation. In Italian, she posted a restrained note that said, without saying, "We're moving forward, and we're not carrying your shadows with us." The part that cracked open the comment sections was his critique of certain Turkish tabloids. This isn't a new tension. Anyone who's watched the rise of actors who split their time between Turkey and Europe has seen the friction. Cenk framed it as a pattern he's endured for years, an old bruise that people keep pressing. He addressed the Italian side directly too, praising fairness, asking for context, and signaling where he feels at home professionally these days. That particular line, almost like a love letter to a different media culture, angered some at home, but it landed perfectly with the audiences who have been following the couple's European chapters. Then there's the Rome post. Was it escape or deliberate messaging? He and Mahaseen knew exactly how it would be read. The location tag, the language, the timing, none of it was random. To some, it looked like a retreat. To others, it was proof that this was never more than a misfire of rumor. If he were under a cloud, How could he just board a plane and be photographed strolling into meetings the next day? Those close to the pair insist this was a scheduled return for work, scripts on the table, campaigns waiting, logistics mapped out weeks in advance. Still, the same images that calm one side enrage the other, and that's the paradox of public life. Proof and provocation are often the same picture. Watching the feeds, you could feel the fault lines. Supporters wrote, "He's out, end of story." The speed of release tells you everything you need to know. The couple is being targeted for being successful and selective about the noise they let in. Skeptics asked why he pushed so hard, why he's often combative with the press, how many times one can claim to be misunderstood before it becomes a pattern. There's truth tucked into both sides. Fame is an amplifier, it magnifies victories and multiplies doubts. And Cenk, with his particular blend of classic charm and stubborn will, is an amplifier of his own. He doesn't whisper his boundaries. What's at stake is bigger than a week of headlines. This is about the protection of an image he and Mahaseen have sculpted meticulously. Think of the commitments hanging in the balance. Co-productions with international crews, brand alignments that require spotless optics, public appearances planned months in advance, and a fan base that spans languages and wants to believe their favorites are exactly who they appear to be. One reckless label can undo years of work. That's why his emphasis on time wasn't casual, it was a strategy. In the public imagination, a long stay implies a problem. A rapid exit suggests the opposite. He knows perceptions are won and lost in the spaces between facts, and he's filling those spaces with the sharpest tool he has, timing. If you flipped through the commentary in the gossip columns, the whispers got darker. Some said his momentum abroad unsettles certain players back home, others claimed that choosing distance from the circus gets you branded as arrogant, a few accused the couple of controlling access so tightly that the press retaliates by heightening scrutiny whenever it can. Nothing in those claims is verified, and yet they thrive because they fit the soap opera we project onto celebrity lives. When the word that should never be thrown lightly is hurled into a headline, it flirts with the unfixable. That's why this episode feels like a referendum on ethics as much as it is a chapter in a love story under siege. The line that will stick, the one we will still be quoting a year from now, is the challenge itself. Do you honestly think a person in his position, in this climate, would be reckless enough to carry contraband? He said it in his own voice, with the conviction of a man tired of living at the mercy of suggestion. It wasn't just a plea. It was a boundary drawn in permanent ink. So where does this leave Cenk and Mahaseen? At a junction, yes, but not one that scares them. This crisis carved a message into the marble of their public life. They won't be quiet, they won't hand their narrative to strangers, and love, real love, can be both soft and unbreakable. Will the friction with parts of the Turkish press intensify, or give way to a different kind of détente? Will their base at home feel pushed away, or rally more tightly because they see a couple protecting each other with ferocity? Time, again, will be judge and witness. From their perspective, the chain of events is straightforward. Rumors swelled, he was briefly brought in, he walked out, and he resumed his calendar. No charges. No stain that the law recognizes. But in the economy of celebrity, unresolved questions are a form of currency too, and conversations that start with uncertainty seldom end on their own. Was it all a misunderstanding inflated by algorithms, or a manufactured storm crafted for reach? Are they being singled out because they draw lines that others don't, or is this simply what modern fame looks like when every hour demands a headline? What we can say is this: Cenk and Mahaseen didn't fracture. He confronted. She steadied. He sharpened the timeline. She smoothed the tone in another language. Together, they turned a rumor into a referendum on the rules of engagement between fame and the machine that feeds off it. This isn't an ending. It's reorientation. And if you've watched them closely, you see the pattern. Every time the noise swells, they reassert their choreography, step into the light, and refuse to be small. Tell us what you think. Was the reaction justified, or too much? Did the press go too far, or is this the unavoidable cost of living on a stage? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for secrets behind the stars. We'll keep lifting the curtain on the stories everyone thinks they know, and the truths hiding between the lines you scroll past every day. Because if this saga proved anything, it's that the distance between rumor and reality is a battlefield, and this couple, hand in hand, intends to win where it matters most, in the long run, under the brightest lights, on their own terms.